Oh, somebody said to me that they can't get into Zoom. Never, they have gotten in.
Okay.
Wow, you're not gathering.
Watch him ready to go.
Yep,
Okay. No, we're not.
Yeah, we're in.
Is it recording?
yep.
Yeah. Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to now open the work session portion of the November 7th, 2024 Planning Commission. And the time is, what do we have here, 6 o'clock, 6:01. Let's say 6:01. And at this time, I'd like to ask that you please silence your cell phones and advise that you proceed, that you know that all your recordings are proceeding being recorded. The discussion that we have at this moment is the short-term rental code revision.
Pledge allegiance.
And no, this is still a workshop. This is the work meeting before we go into the regular business meeting. Okay, and then we'll go into that. Thank you, Commissioner Smith. All right, so what we have is discussion that's on the work session portion of the agenda is the short-term rental code revision. Has everybody had a chance to do any research and things that I might hear from? Sarah? Okay. Commissioner Coe?
I did, and I got a letter saying that the mayor would get a hold of, the mayor had the information from the city manager, and my request was denied for information from this, for this work session.
We'll review that. Thank you, David. I would like to look at what we have at this moment to converse with this as far as our revision. I know that was time other than the letter was to get our amount of people, our rentals, how many we have, and start from there. I would like to pass this on to you, Commissioner Coates.
So the list that we were given of the amount in the city of Lakeside, I know is wrong, and those are really just the legal ones. You know, there's a lot more than what was on the list that's presented to us.
Oh, the 9 that were listed, yeah.
And I only know that some of those are legal because I personally work on a couple of those myself, but I know there's a lot more in city limits than that. They're just probably not
The Will House,
working operational. We have the wheelhouse.
That's
by the
registered.
Tavern.
Yeah.
We got the big blue one over here on, was it 13th Street?
Mhm.
Aaron Griffith used to have his top half as an Airbnb for a while. I don't think it's registered with the city.
Is he still here?
He moved,
Mhm.
I think, didn't he?
He's moving. I don't know if he
He's still in
moved.
process. You know, it was operational. It's not on the list either. And then, Bob Holmberg, he only has one on the list. I know he's got 2 on 8th Street. So it's not a complete list, but I don't know if that's just because they're not registered or they're registered on any one address or whatever, yeah. And then,
Chen,
I think that recognize our city manager.
what list or record do you think I would get illegal operations from?
well, from my understanding, doing the research is, a lot of people don't know that they have to independently register them. They think that's like Airbnb and VRBO just automatically register them with the cities. I don't think that's a case that's happening. I think unless you're super diligent on what you're doing, I think you just sign up on the website and hope for the best that they're taking care of your stuff for you. So I'm not exactly sure. I did research. I know we have a ton up on the lake, but they don't count. I have actually no honest way of knowing which ones are registered, which ones are official, who thinks they're official and they're not. I mean, that's a little
So,
deep diving. Cause I know you don't even have to register with those websites. You can go to Craigslist and be like, hey, my house is available for the week of Veterans Day. And now they're an Airbnb for a week.
So your comments are indicating, though, that you weren't provided the information appropriately. And so my question is, what record would I have pulled if not from business licenses?
I honestly don't know. I'm just, there's more information on your thing. I just think that there's a more comprehensive list that I think you have access to or any of us have access to.
So I have said from day one, though, the fix for that is for me to request that council go ahead and move forward with Oregon Department of Revenue.
Yes.
Collecting the TLT dollars because they also have enforcement mechanisms for illegal operations. So that is on the agenda for
Which is
this month.
perfect. I also think that we need to be maybe a little more strict with them, and if we know that they're in town, then maybe we should make them come here and get a business license that's basically operating a cottage business.
So again, we let Oregon Department of
Yeah.
Revenue do what they do, and we don't have the capacity to chase down are you operating or not operating? And so again, I don't know what other information I could have
Well,
provided.
And that kind of leads me into my next thing. So I did research, and I looked into other communities like we do. Hillsborough is one of the few that actually allows them in strictly residential areas, but they have to have permission from all their neighbors. And they have to follow strict guidelines about tidiness, neatness, and stuff like that. And in order for them to put those letters out, like the lady that was here that wants to put one in our residential, should have to get permission from her neighbors, and at that time, we would have to go through the steps through the city to get them licensed and registered with the city. So if we do the same thing to all Airbnbs and be like, you're in the commercial district and you want an Airbnb, but that house next door to you has to be living in it full time, maybe we should make them ask if it's okay if they put an Airbnb. And then at that time, we can catch them.
But in commercial, it's already appropriate. In
approved.
commercial, it's approved, so their neighbors, like I live in general commercial.
Yeah.
My neighbors across the street could
Well, same with
Airbnb.
you.
Yeah, they could Airbnb it and they don't even have to ask.
But Hillsborough is one of the few communities I think requires almost everybody, if you're living it, even if it's an allowed district, but if there's people living in houses full time, you have to ask the houses for permission, from my understanding of their code.
Well, they also have people who look up and hey, is this cross-referenced with this? And now that we have full staff, we should be able to
Yeah,
do
because
that.
we have more staff than we've had in like 5 years.
Yeah. So now we should be able to have dedicated time for that.
So staffing issues are on my end. So if you think that Sharon is new, so thanks Sharon for being here. And
Partially new.
she's partially new. But she's here part-time, right? And so to assume that we just have staffing available, if there is something that is dedicated that you would like to request for staffing, that's something that the council needs to approve. And more time, more dedication. And what I am hearing you guys say is that you would like an enforcement piece on the short-term rentals, but then also you're looking at expanding it. So let's look at expanding it maybe, and then telling me what the enforcement is while I work on the other portion
Right.
of getting the Department of Revenue on board to see really how many illegal operations you have, or again, transparency, having a functional website, putting it out there that, hey, in case you want to do an Airbnb or a short-term rental, in case you didn't know you need to apply, we can put a lot of information out with something that is searchable and functional.
And I
So-
agree with that statement, because I know we had a problem a few years ago with contractors licensed and not contractors just digging without consulting the city first, and they put a big banner and a pop-up page and all that, and it has done the trick. I do believe that has helped cut down on the illegal, just doing whatever you want to in Lakeside. So maybe something like that, you go on city Lakeside web page, something pops up, Airbnb, whatever. It's hard to regulate them, is basically what I was trying to get at.
I'm looking at it, and if I might say so, is everything is new right now.
Yeah.
We're just getting here. We've just got a new, basically, our planning commission has just started getting enough people. Our city manager is basically doing what she can with the time that she has, and having Sharon come on and having our staff here. Yes, we can get staff, but I think right now we need to realize that the staff can't put this amount of information and throw it on them right there now and get a result. Somehow, we're not here as the commission to be enforcers.
Correct.
We're basically able to set precedents of what the people can, and actually, what they can do, what they have something to enforce. What codes, what regulations are
Well,
necessary.
I think that's kind of the point I'm trying to get at. I'm just really weird at getting there. If we make it where we set a set of standards, and if they follow the steps, then we will be able to catch them, because they'll have no choice but to come here and, you know, follow through these steps. Then we'll know that they're registered, and we know that it's okay with all the neighbors. And then, you know, they have to follow certain rules that, you know, like, just like any other ordinance, basically, I guess is the way to say it.
Yeah, Airbnb should have emergency contact phone numbers, know where a tsunami
Yeah.
evacuation around.
That's standard everywhere.
Yeah, and a lot of our Airbnbs don't.
But if we have a city set also saying like, you know, if you're not on the ATV route, you can't be running your ATVs all over the place, you know, or like. If you're in the floodplain, you can't have, you know, whatever, you can't have so many cars, you can't disturb the neighbors, so many complaints, but I get that's a code
Right,
enforcement
the
thing.
enforcement, we
Yeah.
can talk till we're blue in the face, but until we have some tools that will actually put it.
Where do we stand as far as allowing them in residential
Residential.
areas?
I'm a hard no.
You know, we approached that subject and I don't think we ever come up with a conclusion. Other than the fact that, Henry says that, it says no.
Right, and that's kind of where I start with Hillsborough, is because Hillsborough allows them, but in
Yeah.
order for them to come in, they have things they have to do, and one of those is to get permission from all the neighbors and follow what the city does, so.
And then, once we, if we're going to say, keep it as no, then we can look at the ones that are not in
Correct.
compliance, that are in the non-resident or in the residential zone. We forget about the ones that are in the commercial and recreational, and because that's approved already.
Correct,
We could grandfather the ones in general single family, and when they sell it, that goes away.
yeah, it stays with the owner, the current owner.
The current
Well,
owner, as soon as they sell the property,
Thing is, are we going to keep it as no, or are we going to modify it to where they can put Airbnbs in residential?
Henry
You know,
says
that's
no.
the big question.
And of course, everything can be put down on paper, what we can do and what we can't do. But we're gonna drive a lot of these people underground. There's gonna be a lot of that all over
They already
every
are.
city. Every city that we don't know does it.
That's what I'm
We
saying.
need to bring it up. We need to reward these people, not to fear them. We want our city, because we are a tiny little city representing 1,800 souls here, plus a few here and there. And some of them come in, some of them go, and a lot of these people who have residential are gonna be gone for 6 months. Does it meter that my cousin goes in and house watches and why they're gone? What is that considered, you know? If I was a resident and I realize that my rent is going to be cut, or my mortgage is gonna be cut down, I would have them come in. I mean, there has gotta be some sort of give and take, but yet not to make it so evil that it scares people, and that this, everything we want to do.
There again, if they're going to be gone for 6 months, they've got the option of bringing it a month by month. And that's not short term.
Mhm.
Okay, then, does that make sense?
So it has to be a definition.
Yeah.
There would be. There would need to be, this is, what we're doing tonight is we were doing like Carl says, as far as we're. Trying to decide if we want to have them in the residential, general single family, and that's what tonight. If we're going to need more. Ways to identify and tell them what they need to do and all that, we would have to write some type of code. And I know that, Florence, we just finished doing that. And as Krista says, they just finished doing that. And as Krista says, when we get Department of Revenue involved, everybody who has a rental is filing something on their taxes. They probably a Schedule E or something like that, and so that they can claim that, their expenses. So that's how they catch them. And then collect the money. And the way that, Florence does it is that they have the vacation, anybody who has a vacation rental has to get a business license and they have to register with the Department of Revenue. The Department of Revenue is who collects the tax and then they distribute to the city. And that's what will help us get the benefit of the tax dollars, not only knowing where these rentals are, it's also going to increase our revenue. So it's something that we would need to work on. You did a really good job as far as looking and doing the research in different cities, because that's what everybody's doing.
Okay,
I just think if we open it up to everywhere, the ones that are doing it undercover or on Craigslist and they're not registered because they think they're gonna get in trouble, might be more inclined to make it legit if they know they're not gonna get in trouble in those neighborhoods.
okay, so we have, like you say, some sort of a time limit, timing that can do it. Are we more concerned with the short-term rental or the people that come in and have their people that are going on snowbird mode that are taking care of their homes for 4 to 6 months?
I don't worry about the snowbird people. I'm thinking more like people that come in for our big holidays.
We're looking at
weekends.
short term.
Yeah, short
Yeah.
term rental.
This is what's the short term. Okay, good.
Yeah. I don't care if you rent your house out for half a year to your aunts. I care about the people that come down for 2 weekends and throw a party and, tick off the neighbors, and they're not registered with any website. They have an advertisement on Craigslist or something like that, or a bulletin board in town. I just think in order to get everybody on the same page, there's ways to make them where they're all legit. It'll benefit the city financially. It'll make the neighbors happy. We have such a small, strict residential only area in this town. If one is in there, it'd be nice to know they're in there.
Correct.
So I have a question. If enforcement wasn't the issue, then what are we talking about? Because all I keep hearing is enforcement rather than where can people be? Because you can do percentages, you can do 3 to 5% of your single family residents. You can do it in particular areas, ones that are closer to the downtown area. What does that look like? Or is it a lottery? Is it there's a city in anyway, the mayor goes through all of the VRBOs and all of the Airbnbs and he checks to see if there's registered people. I mean, you don't have to get like that, but if enforcement isn't the issue, then what are we looking at where people can be? And also LOC is going to legislate this year for us to use the TLT revenue and for infrastructure, for the increased stress on services, whether it be for public service, law enforcement, fire department issues, or whether it's the stress on wastewater and water and things like that, where that isn't a current thing. So being that we don't have a tax base, I just want you to think about how that can really help the city increase funding. Even with the 5% that the Department of Revenue keeps, it will still benefit us in a way that we can pay for infrastructure. And the other thing I was going to say is that the enforcement mechanism that they use at Revenue is they actually have investigators. So what I do is I report all of the ones that I see. Then they have their team that goes through and they monitor those things too. And they go, oh, this looks like one. They go out and investigate. So if the enforcement isn't the issue, I just want to know what are we looking at?
Enforcement goes along with the zoning part of it, because in order to open up and say we do want to allow them anywhere, they will have to follow a set standard you can take it from anywhere in any other city, because other cities have set standards that they have to follow in these certain areas, which is then part of the enforcement part. You have to, it's kind of, I guess it's hard to explain, I guess, by me, but I'm just saying, if say we want them in everywhere and we can move them into strictly residential, not the, recreational residential, then they have a set of rules that they have to check. And then if they don't follow it, then you'd have the enforcement part come in. But I think they would be easier just to say, yes, you can be here. And then we don't have these shady people because they're not scared.
Okay, so first of all, do we know how many houses are in Lakeside?
800.
Do we have
Or so.
the possibility of finding a way to give a flyer to every single city
No,
house?
no.
That's only 800 houses. And then you make this announcement about potential and what's happening. Because right now, no one's saying anything and no one's really, how do we get them to know all of this?
I got a question. Who sent the 800? Of those 800, how many are in the residential only area?
That might be a question for Henry. I just know that that's around how many sewer accounts we have. So,
We do, and we do have several houses, they're on the same lots, all connected into one sewer system.
well, you've got RV parks and you've
Yeah.
got, you know, it's things like that, but generally about eight, I mean, you have 18, 75 residents, 1,900 residents. I don't know, you know, are they all year round
So the
second
issue
homes?
is that we can talk about all this stuff here. And restricting, but who are we restricting? How many people?
Hardly any.
And so as a result, how far out are we gonna go on this? How far out do we have to do it by law? How far out do we have to do it for personnel issues? How much of this is critical and how much of it is just exaggerating?
Well, like
How
North Bend,
serious is it to our
Yeah, but
business?
North Bend has a lot larger portion that's strictly residential only property where we have what? 3 tiny half roads?
we got a lot off the track by the maps that we have.
We've had a lot. How many is that mean? Like 400?
I'd have to go drive around and count like all the houses on your hill. And Queens and Kings and Robin Hood and Rachel and Boron and all that. And then you come down on this side of the tracks where last commission changed this where it should have been mixed use or residential recreational instead of general single family, because you cut that out right there. You cut that out right there, and that's where the people are on 13th or 15th.
The people that brought this up in the first place.
Yep.
Is right over here.
And last,
Okay, but unfortunately, that's a whole different can of worms.
again, North Bend has 64, they allow 64 short-term rentals in their city.
If
So
you,
how many are we gonna allow?
if you were to do 5%, then what are we looking at, 40 houses? If you do, you know, 2.5.
10% is 80. You can do that.
10, you know, 2.5%, you're, you know, looking at,
5% is 400. 2.5 is 200.
And you
So-
can, couldn't you set the percentages, like, we allow them here and here, but in a residential neighborhood, we allow 2% per section, or 1%, or one house for every 25, or something weird like that? And then just allow them wherever they want their
What is
commercial.
it, the
wherever
lottery
they
then?
want.
If there's 400 people vying for a spot for 2 people?
No,
Yeah.
this
Is
is,
it a lottery type thing that done?
well, and that's just it though, is it, like you were talking about enforcement and bringing people into compliance.
yeah,
And so you're automatically giving them an in because they did things wrong. And so you should give the people that came and asked and then didn't do it, the opportunity to do it
so
correctly.
if we made this a case by case scenario.
You might be getting into some,
Henry says we should leave it alone and leave them out of general single family. Last month,
Yeah,
because
you
there's a
mentioned.
whole bunch of stuff that we have to do to allow them in general
I just
single.
don't think that's right.
I have friends who live in general single family, you being one of them. You haven't complained, but I have other friends who live in general single family and say they don't want Airbnbs in general single family. They're not allowed now. They don't want them. They don't want them in general single family. We have them in recreational residential, general commercial, mixed use. We have a plenty of space for short-term rentals. The ones that are in general single family, give them a waiver, give them, grant them use until they sell their property. Then it goes back to general single family because they're in general single family. They were misled, whether it was misled by staff, city, previous staff, they didn't research it, whatever, give them an in, but let them know when you sell your property, it will not be an STR because you're in general single family. So you won't be able to advertise it. just like my neighbor across the street on Seventh advertised that you could put a motorhome in there to sleep. And no, you cannot put a motorhome, RV, anything in general commercial and have someone sleep in there permanently.
So David, how far is this into our, code for our short-term rental?
What do you mean?
Is this real relative to the parking people's RVs and people's?
Well,
homes for
the
that?
short-term rentals,
It'd be a short term.
it'd be a
Oh, that's
short-term rental.
short-term
In the case of his neighbor, the neighbor considers it a short. And like I brought it up, I think last month, is you do now have websites popping up where you could rent somebody's driveway to park your RV for
A
a
weekend.
weekend.
So
and
we
it's
need
considered
to,
an Airbnb.
Don't worry about that, go out to the airport.
Well, we need to have the code revision then. We just have to have it revised so it interprets exactly what we're talking about, rentals. What are and what aren't. Now, if if a relative comes up and wants to stay a weekend at my place and have an RV for the weekend,
Yeah, but you're not
renting.
you're not renting it with the intent of making a profit in a business.
again,
That would just be your family
I-
staying for a weekend.
Your family can stay. There's nothing that says your
I
family
think
can't
it's
stay.
just in the play when you're receiving a check.
Yep.
yeah, I agree. I agree. I guess I just come from a different part of the world where people come in and say that and slip in, slip out. It's,
But there are creative ways that people are coming up with rentals, like the Airstreams and the Airstream parks and, the RVs and I've seen sheds turned into, backyard sheds turned into rentals and tiny houses on very creatively on trailers. There's lots and lots of things. So if you're going to do it, you want to be very clear about what it is. But also, if there's a balance, is there a balance that can be struck where you're allowing some rentals and yet preserving still your single family? That's the
And
question.
that's what I brought up was other towns require that before they bring one in and go to the city and all that, so you have to get permission from the neighborhood. And if everybody in the neighborhood says no, then they can't bring them in, but then
so the people who want to have a short term, how does the city make money off of that?
The tax
Short term.
off of the renter.
off the-
So if I have an RV and I want to park in someone's parking lot, or driveway,
So if
anybody that could pay to somebody and he pays that fee.
If somebody has an RV, and again, it sounds like it's not allowed, but if somebody has an RV and they want to rent it out for the weekend to a stranger, then the stranger would be paying the tax to the either intermediary or directly, but usually an intermediary like Airbnb and VRBO and all those things.
So that's only if you're signed up to a company like that.
Right. But you don't know what people do on the DL anyway. Even people that are registered with Airbnb may have friends that are like, yeah, just let me, $100 and we'll avoid the TLT dollars or whatever. You don't know. The whole thing is all based off of honesty, really.
So we as a commission, what do we represent or how do we in any form affect this ordinance?
Well, it sounds like your planner, though, is giving you clear, advice. And so, Henry is on here, I believe. And so we can ask again, just for some more clarification, if you would like.
I would.
Let's see.
Can you hear me? This is Henry.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. So going back a few months at previous commission meetings, it was my understanding the commission did not want to permit short-term rentals in the single family zone and leave it how it is. Right now, they're not allowed there. They're allowed everywhere else. That was my understanding.
Oh, because you guys didn't want to address it?
I think I remember that,
Yeah, just leave it as it is. If
with Rob
you,
and
sort of like the
Mark.
commissioner was saying. They're already not permitted in general single family.
Right, originally, there was, short-term rentals were not allowed in any location in the city. It was not addressed in the, ordinance 168. So, and since it was not addressed, they were not allowed anywhere. So that's why they, made that's what, when they crafted ordinance 24-02 was so that short-term rentals were addressed somewhere. And they decided to have them in the recreational residential, the marine commercial, and the commercial, and not have them in the residential. And so that's how it all began.
I recollect that how it was as well. We were trying, that's how we actually zoned the other place that was prior. And you put it as a residential only. And not, in other words, just to rein in the control of something. So that we know where they are, what they can do, what they can't. So that we have more understanding that if it's in residential, we have more apt to analyze or say they can't. But there is, the good area and the bad area.
Also, I'd like to say something. If I can recall properly, one of the things, and I'm going to use the name, and that was Rob. He's very persuasive, and he kind of indicated that according to state regulations and things like this, that this is the way it had to go. And that's kind of what I kind of recollect.
So Henry?
Yeah.
Let me see. Are you there, Henry?
Yeah, I think you have to unmute me. It doesn't
Oh,
allow
okay.
me to unmute myself.
Sorry.
Yes, I'm here.
You are a little bit low, so it is a little bit hard to hear you, but we can hear you.
Okay.
What is the balance here in your opinion?
The balance in terms of what?
If they wanted to allow some short-term rentals, or do you think, is it that, your opinion, ordinance 2402 was just adopted, leave that alone? If there was a balance, what would that look like?
Yeah, I mean, this is my opinion. I unless it's causing great harm and concern in Lakeside, I would probably just leave it as it is. It seems to be working as it is right now, and just leaving them out of the single family zone. If you did want to permit them in the single family zone, you could have, this is how Bandon does it. You could have like one every 300 feet. So they're not all clustered together, and you would kind of draw a circle around the home that is the vacation rental, and then 300 feet from that you create a buffer, and so the next one that comes down the line would have to be outside of that area. But unless it's causing great harm and issues in Lakeside, it sounds like it's working as is. It's working fine, and that was probably the intent of the 2402.
So one more question. Would it be denying somebody the right to, I guess, make money if there was the one every 300 feet?
No, that would just be part of your development code. It's a standard. That's how Bandon has it.
Okay. Thank
It's
you.
a conditional use in Bandon. So eventually Bandon will probably run out of short-term rentals or new ones because they're saturated. There's no more space for them.
So could we, Henry, I'm sorry, but, could they make it be a conditional use in the general single family? And then that way they would have, then that's when the enforcement part would come in, because you would tell them to give them the conditions.
Yeah, if you were to allow them in a general single family, they should probably be conditional uses. So they have to come get that permit from the planning commission.
Okay. We did discuss and brought up here in my mind here when Carl triggered it, was the fact that we wanted to be very simple and not go out. There was a discussion about not having any allowance of vacation rentals in the single family zoning. That's why we have a zoning for that for districts. I think the conversations that did come in at the time were about that, if they came here to town to be in a family orientated area and not feel irritated or bothered that people are coming and going. Or safety was one of the reasons. And I just want to know how much money there was that we were generating or getting out of that. And if the money that we were charging, was it enough money to put a value on it better than allowing the residential people just to have residential and not a commercial, I mean, a family's vacation rentals? Does that make sense?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so. But the idea is that the amount of residential area that we have, which I don't know if it's how big that is, but it is, and I think we basically put the watch on it. That's from what I remember from that meeting that we had. Sharon, were you there at the time?
No, but that's how the 24-202 was designed. That's when you wrote it, when it was written, that's what it does. It leaves them not allowed in the general single family.
Okay.
And so that's how you discussed it, and that's what you came up with, and that's how this was and why it was written.
I kind of agree with David that we should not allow it in single family. But if we did, I think we need to do the restrictions like Sarah said about all your neighbors have to agree on, and in certain area, and things like that. So I would consider that as a thought, but I guess at the present time, I guess I'm going to agree with David that it should be not allowed.
Well, that comes into our part of the, as this is a work part of our meeting. Is there any other questions? Any other input? Sarah?
No.
Are you still in
I like somebody's idea of just writing it with like a conditional use permit for them. So like these people who bought the property when it was industrial and it got switched to residential aren't out. They couldn't help it, it got rezoned. Right? So if they came in and got a conditional use permit to have an Airbnb, if for some reason they sell, die, whatever, it changes hands, conditional use permit would expire, they still have to follow all the restrictions for a conditional use permit. If they broke those conditions, we revoke it, end of Airbnb. I don't know, but that's just, I'm maybe out there.
But it's these people that brought the problem up and all that. Anybody else nowadays would be aware of the new code. These people that it got changed in the middle of their escrow, I would think that we should be able to make some commitment other, or some way of making it.
Concession.
That's what I'm saying, like,
For them.
like a permit for them, but if for
Yeah.
some reason they decide they sell the house, it ends there, it reverts back.
Grandfather, the ones that are in general single family, grandfather them in. Let them know that there's no penalty, come in, we want to work with you.
But then we go back into the enforcement end of things and we're not the enforcement. That's what I'm saying. It kind of goes in hand. You need somebody that's gonna enforce it and go after them. Or are we just gonna going forward? If you follow these rules and you get a permit, pay your money, then.
So
we'll
how
not-
long have these people been in that house?
Not that long.
So they're just newbie people and they automatically want to do.
The old commission changed it is about when the time they were buying their house in escrow, when you, Carl,
Did they come
Mark.
in to apply for a Airbnb?
It was zoned light industrial, they didn't need
They
to.
didn't need one.
They
at the
didn't
time,
need to. It
but they
was-
need one now.
It
But they-
was
Okay,
So
in
this
their listing
grandfather
and
them in.
everything else, when they were going through, it was light industrial and it was approved. And when they ended up finalizing their escrow and signing it, we had changed the rules on them.
so you're telling me that they were approved for an Airbnb? Why it was under a light
Like,
industrial?
light industrial, it fits their
Their
criteria.
use, and then it switched, and now it's only they can't have a legal Airbnb because they are no longer zoned correctly. That's why they changed that first. That's what I'm saying. There's gotta be some kind of way to allow it.
Mhm.
So is this a residential that they're using? Do they live in and they?
They don't live
They
there.
don't live in it. They buy it for, I believe, an investment property.
For a second, they come here all the time,
But
so.
prior to
And
that.
how long do
time-
these people that rent, how long do they rent it for? Do they qualify for that?
I
Are
don't
they
know.
long-term? Are they short-term?
They
They're all
work-
short-term.
they-
They're all short-term.
Because they're trying to
It's
license
an
their business with, I
STR.
believe, an Airbnb company. If I remember. it.
Mhm.
They're trying to do it legitimately, but they can't because now their house is zoned incorrectly. So it's either sit on an empty house that they don't live at, or now try to sell it and lose money on it.
They bought it when it was light industrial. Or they were in the process of buying it when it was light industrial. After they closed, they came in here to get a permit. And the city said, you can't do that. Because it's residential.
So again, how long when did we do that?
Last year.
It's in 24.
So are these people?
Ordinance is
they've been here
24.
less than a year, over a year?
I believe that they were trying to buy the house for, I think it probably took them a couple of months. They would have to go through planning or the zoning change. It doesn't happen overnight. So I'm sure it was happening for a while. And I've noticed with the real estate agents here in this area, they don't tell you where your house is zoned, because I've had real estate agents try to sell swampland to people thinking that they can build houses and then they
Especially in our wetland.
can't.
I have a fair amount of real estate agents that call.
They're
actually.
better now than what they used to be, and I believe Sharon knows from past when she was here. Somebody tried to sell the land right next to Osprey, which is a 90% unbuildable swamp to some people, say that they could put a house there. And I had to tell them wrong. So it does happen. I think they're getting
Okay.
better, but it does happen. So it probably wasn't disclosed to them. Or, real estate agent didn't know because you guys changed the code in the middle of it and they had no time to disclose. Once you put your money down for down payment or whatever, they don't have to disclose anymore to you.
But I think prior to the 2402, that it was never addressed. They weren't allowed in any zone. Until this was enacted.
But they allowed them everywhere else. So I'm
They were,
probably assuming that they thought they could,
Yeah.
towns at the time did.
yes. We did just have a realtor call the other day and they wanted to buy a house up on Hilltop and it's a vacation rental now, but then we were told them that they could not, it will not go with the property, that they would have to have a conditional use permit in order for them to continue their Airbnb, their vacation rental.
So.
A case in point, on King Avenue, I had a person that bought a lot, put a tiny home, claimed that they bought it, but every weekend there's someone new in there with the RVs parked in, the gates are locked when it's not there.
They're using it as a.
And then they're
short-term
using it
rental.
as a short-term rental. They came into our chambers at one time and said that we wanted to do it. We said we don't really want to. they at this time are doing it anyway. There's another one up on the top that has a area, and I'm not sure, they're neighbors of mine that have a beautiful little place for a camper, and I mean, it's nicer than you'd want to do it. And I'm not sure if that has been, legal and put in. I don't know how many of those. So those are already just two in the city. So where are we going with this? You know, this guy here, they didn't get the residential, became residential, now they can't have one. These guys up here have put their area, they can't get one, or they're doing it anyway.
Well, I was going to be like, Commissioner Smith said, when they sell their property, they would contact the city probably, and we would tell them, just like we did up at, on Hilltop, that you cannot have a vacation rental because it's in the general single family. And most of the time, that ends the discussion and the sale. And that's, if they've done their due diligence, that's what we would tell them.
Well, they're already built, they're already in there, and they're going full swing.
But when they sell it, that is the only thing that we can do. Is if we can make them, we can contact them, we can say, do you have, well, we can't give them a business license because they're not allowed there. So there's, the only thing is the way that Krista says, through the Department of Revenue. And they send the letter and they enforce the, at least we get the TLT. They're not allowed, but at least we get the tax.
I just worry that we sent one person to do it because of this, because they went in and it's gonna open, I think we're gonna do it, it's gonna be a blanket, nobody in residential.
You're not addressing the problem of this one party.
So we're
You're going back and you're expanding it out to everybody.
So we
You're
just wanna
not,
we just wanna take care of one person, not for the benefit of the whole city. It's for the benefit of one person.
yes,
That is the commission, is that what we wanna do?
I want to make it for the whole general single families. Grandfather them in.
yeah, but I mean, right now, the grandfather them in, you gotta give them a conditional permit, because
Grandfather,
they don't have it right now.
and when they sell their place, that permit goes away.
But you have to encourage them to come and get that use permit and say, hey, if you have one, if you get this permit, you can operate it legally, and then it's a code enforcement thing.
Okay, when we have our city manager as code enforcement.
Well,
So, question, so a scenario, somebody has an Airbnb, a short-term rental. They, that a new buyer is attracted to the home because of what it is. They can't come get a conditional use permit because they don't own the home. Why would I buy a house wanting to invest in it as a short-term rental only to maybe not get the conditional use permit?
A lot of people will do it anyway,
Mm,
like they have been.
Well,
That's a big,
Well,
because
issue.
if you're doing diligence, you check, to see if you could get a permit.
But not every person buying a house is gonna do their due diligence.
you know, what I'm saying is that in order to sign the application, you have to own the home. You can't, or have the owner sign off on it. You can't put the application in without, you can't say, can I get a conditional use permit for something I don't own or rent?
Right, but wouldn't, if somebody was going to buy my house and they wanted to make an Airbnb out of it, wouldn't they do due diligence and come to you and say, hey, is this allowed in this zone?
Yeah, and we do, we get that a lot. And in Henry's staff reports, he puts all the inquiries in there. There's a lot of their inquiries. And so what we tell them is, sorry, no, you can't. We don't say, hey, maybe you could come and ask the commission for a conditional use
Right.
permit. And then it might change how somebody looks at that property. Instead of like, okay, no, that's totally out. If you already have an existing one that's gonna be grandfathered in, that's gonna revert back to single family, general single family, by the time the property is sold, I would have no interest in buying something. And the reason I'm saying that is with the Rainbow property that we had, it was a little bit of the same thing, you know, I want to make a deal, I want to buy this property, but here's some of the past. How do I know that if I buy this property that we can go ahead and have assurances that we can clean up the property? And so I'm just coming from the perspective of assisting people in selling their homes. There's a lot of homes for sale. And it's, you know, of course, there's a lot of factors, but if one of them is an Airbnb, I just want to put that out there that I wouldn't buy one if that's why I was interested in it. If I didn't know I could have.
So if you make it where you have them anywhere, if you come get a conditional use permit, person says, hey, I want to buy your house, can I make it a Airbnb? You go, yeah, if you go to the city and get a conditional use permit, you can have an Airbnb. It's like, sweet, I will buy this house and go get that permit, give the city money and have an Airbnb. That's just my opinion.
In the residential area?
Yeah, anywhere. And if they don't follow the rules, they break the rules, or their neighbors hate them, they're having wild frat parties, you revoke their conditional use permit in the story. It's like anybody else's in here. Henry said it's true.
You know, I know that we, as commission, maybe we have personal interest in some of
I
the
don't.
situation in May, and we have hearts for it. But how does it affect the city as a whole? What is the long-term implication, whether we give it to this person, grandfather it over to this person?
If you let it,
What does that do?
if you let
Does it
it
make
all
us
in
feel
general
good?
single family, then you're gonna flood the market and you won't have any residents because they're all gonna turn to Airbnb.
That's right.
No.
So you won't have very many residents. You won't have 1,988
It's a
people.
little exotic there. I don't think that's ever gonna happen.
You're gonna flood the area. You're gonna
I
have
don't
people
think so.
moving
I
out.
don't think so.
You know how many new homes I've put into Lakeside this past year? New homes? At
No.
least 8.
And where were they all at?
They're everywhere.
Any in Lakeside?
Oh, they're all in Lakeside.
We'll see. It's good to know.
I'm finishing up one in Lakeland Estates right now.
That one on the end.
Mhm.
So what I'm trying to say, folks, is if we make this decision, what decision are we making? Because I'm confused.
The only decision that you're making tonight is, or if you even want to table it and come back to it, would be if you want to change the ordinance to allow single Airbnb or vacation rentals in the general single family zone. If you don't, you just want to leave it the way it is, that's our only decision for tonight.
And we can make
That decision in a work session. Yep.
Oh, okay, that's true.
Yep.
So we'd have to come back.
To a public meeting for.
So I guess it would be just we can put it on the next.
Well, you're going into, is it not on the agenda? Next,
Well, we're going into our,
your regular meeting.
Oh, we are going into a regular meeting,
Yep.
yeah.
Right, discussion of agenda items, so.
are we actually done with the, basically we've talked over 30 minutes about this. Okay, so without further ado, I'd like to close this section of the meeting and maybe bring it over into our agenda into our meeting part of this, the business part. What time is it here?
It's 7 o'clock.
6:54.
So we're gonna move into the business portion of the agenda. Which brings us in, and the time for us is at 7. And now I open up the regular Lakeside Planning Commission as of November 7th, 2024. And I'd like to have Sarah Coates, will you please lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
Easy, taking, let me think. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, thank you. Okay. May we have a roll call, please?
Carl Granzo, present.
Randy Thomas, present.
Sarah Coates, present.
David Smith, present.
Okay, think you're all there. The commission will now move on to agenda 4. Changes to the agenda. And now I'm asking, are there any charges or changes that any of the commissioners would like to add to the agenda?
Yes,
Okay, so we will look at this. Let's see. Okay, Carl, let's do it in an organized way that we all can.
one of the first things we see on the agenda is that there's no comments from the community. Again,
And
on
this was approved by you. I was told by the city manager earlier. This agenda was approved by you.
Yes,
Okay. Just want to clarify that on the record.
and on the record, the idea of this particular issue is that we had no hearings of any item. And it started out basically a carryover to the workshop. Because the rest of the information that we're going to be having is basically all about adjusting or going over our minutes and basically learning from our staff the presentation of a FEMA. And so I felt that there was no need to have that, but I think,
we haven't had that for months.
yes, that's correct. That's correct. So in your thoughts, would you then prefer, how would you like to have that happen?
Well, there should always be a comment in there, a time allowed for citizen comments.
Okay,
I have a question. Would that be for agenda items only, or is that for anything at large?
We put it right here at the top of our page, the city of Lakeside extends reasonable possible, will make all meetings accessible. Remotely provide the opportunity for citizens to submit oral testimony during the meeting and written testimony by email.
Testimony, hearings.
But if somebody comes in here and says, hey, planning commission, I have a problem, can you look into it? Shouldn't we give them the opportunity to come to planning and ask for something, or is that something that they have to wait till Monday and go to City Hall and ask Krista?
well, we can actually make that add on into our procedures from call to order. The pledge of allegiance roll call. Would you like to have the future of our meetings to be held that we want a public comment before changes to the agenda?
We've always had it, about 4 or 5 months ago.
Okay,
Not until August 7th.
all right, but we're looking at now. I can't do that.
Well, and I think if nobody's here, we can just be like,
Right,
no
that's-
citizen comments, skip it.
And that has been the case in the last several times.
I think we should.
So I have a copy that Commissioner Smith has given me of what your agendas used to look like. We can follow that if that makes everybody happy. So nobody told me how it works, okay? So I did the best that I
I
could.
actually find that is my responsibility, Krista. I take responsibility for that. Because I took it as the section of these last several meetings weren't the easiest, and we actually did have, but we had no people here. We had interesting meetings, and so actually it was like, and usually it was since we haven't had any major issues for divisions and for different things that we needed. I didn't know what the commission is, so I want to personally throw myself on the thing on that. And from then on, I want to make sure that after roll call, changes to the agenda, before they change the agenda, we would put that from now on as our public comment.
So there was no changes to the agenda on the previous agenda.
Correct, but I think we want to keep that and just add back.
The
comments.
public comment. So my understanding, we are gonna have roll call, pledge of allegiance, roll call, or sorry, call to order, pledge of allegiance, roll call, public comment, Or no, so roll call and now you want changes to the agenda?
I want to do roll call, then number 4 would be, public comment,
And then the changes.
then 5 changes and so on.
So why would you have public comment and then change the agenda? And then they don't know what you're gonna change it to.
I thought the comment was nothing but saying that we want to talk about an ice cream truck for 3 minutes. As opposed to testimony.
Or a tow yard.
Evidently, we, in, my last job, we had the agenda or roll call, the Pledge of Allegiance, and then it was approval of the agenda, approval of the minutes, then public comment.
And see, I'm okay with
Yep.
that. I don't care about the order. I just think it needs to be added in there.
Oh, no, I want to have an order so that we.
Yeah, and so that's how it was done. We did the approval of the
That's fine.
I
agenda,
think
approval
that's
of the
fine.
minutes,
I'd be okay with
public
that, too.
comments for any item not on the agenda.
David, are you okay with that?
The only reason why I keep bringing it up is we have people in the community that email me, hey, Sarah, it's left off again. What if I wanted to come in there?
Same.
And I go, I don't know. Let me.
Well,
ask."
again, you guys were supposed to adopt rules of procedure. We have been asking you to address rules of procedure.
Then maybe we should just do the stupid rules of procedure. And that way we have something and then we can't always be yelling at Krista.
Well, I don't want to yell at Chris.
No, but I think
I just
Krista
wanna-
feels we're yelling at her all the time.
I do, because this has been very difficult not knowing what is actually supposed to be, and it's hard to find things. You guys don't know how hard it's been to find agendas and past things. It's been a mess only to come in here and every time it's not hi, hello, it's you screwed up my packet. So,
I guess I wasn't even gonna bring it up, but
no, I want to give you what you need and what you need to do your job. So let's just bang it out really quick and you tell me exactly how it's supposed to go and then we can just move on and not have a
So,
problem.
Let me talk here. The following procedures.
Okay,
Procedures. Call to order. Pledge of allegiance. The roll call. Changes to the agenda. Approve the agenda. Approval of minutes. That clears out everything. It's like the prelude. The next thing would come in would be public comment. That would then be exactly the same thing as what they're saying. You're limited for 3 minutes. Does not mean that we will listen, but at that time, we will not do any legislation or however you want to talk it. It's basically just like you're saying, for them to say something and be done. So then we can actually give them the satisfaction, what they did. And then we go into our other parts of our agenda.
okay, question. So it's agenda items or non-agenda items or both?
Vote.
And so, okay,
I do have a question because you've done this before too, Krista, I made here so I can clean it up and get us all going. Is there a situation where any of those, that was my comment now I'm asking for criticism or suggestive, critical or constructive criticism on how this can be done in that order or any different way.
no, that's fine. I mean, that's how we do it for council and, that's fine. And then normally after, public comment, you have your new business or your old business, your new business, reports and, commissioner comments, council comments.
And then
then
whatever's in
adjourn.
between, like you say,
Yeah.
any item that,
Mhm.
we have. I like that idea, Sharon.
Yes, and if there was a hearing, then you have your staff report, then you have public testimony.
Mhm.
It's not comments.
So we do
Okay.
not do comments during a hearing. We
Right.
Do testimony.
testimony.
Which needs to be in some form.
It has to address the
The issue.
criteria.
Yep.
And those, does it have to be presented prior?
No, the chair reads it identifies what you're gonna be speaking about
Yes.
during, or what the applicant has applied for. The chair reads that, Then they ask for the staff report. So then the staff report's given. And then they ask for public testimony. They ask a testimony from the applicant. Then public testimony. And then
The public testimony, isn't it for who wants it, who is
Mhm.
non either way, and
Yeah.
then someone who doesn't.
right,
Makes sense. It's almost like a court trial
It
where
is.
the plaintiff defends their case and then you
Yep.
have your witness statement.
and then they go back and they.
Come in with that. We're, after they hear the testimony. We
Then-
then convene with each other.
Well, you would, well, yeah, because then you close the hearing and then you begin deliberations.
Just almost like a court case.
Like we've done before.
And I'll have a script for you for that. I made hundreds of them.
So-
Okay,
So we started with the Commissioner Granzo made the change to the agenda, but you still never approved your agenda or would like to make the change, and we just went into a discussion.
Do you have to make a motion? for that?
Well, to add it to the agenda,
Yeah.
yes.
well, is that the only thing we want to add? I know we got Commissioner Krasnoff to do that. Is there someone else who has questions?
I have something different that I would like to add.
Is that appropriate?
You can do that, but you should try to limit the amount of add-ons for,
Mine's not really an add-on. Mine's more or less a conversation.
Can it be
I
typed?
think,
Can it come under,
what I think it is, it would go under our comments at the end.
right, can it go under number 9?
I will put mine under the comments at the end and,
Number 9,
yes, and not under changes to the agenda.
good.
Okay. That'll make life easier. on
That's what I was, that's what I was gonna do also.
Okay, I think yours is a little more serious than mine, maybe. Mine's an
I think it's the
opinion.
same thing.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the agenda? Changes to the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the changes in the order of the agenda and to add back in community comments. All.
And a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Hey, we got David to say aye.
I know, that's a heart attack.
So the revised agenda has been approved. On our next one here, we have our, and this is easy to do. Approval of the minutes for October 3rd. The minutes for September 12th are not available at this time. But
Why?
has everybody had opportunity to go through October 3rd?
What about September?
I've read October's.
I've read October.
I read
That's why we
October's as
don't
well.
have September's. Is that just because staff hasn't gotten to it yet?
Yes.
Or,
Yes.
okay,
That's incorrect. They have gotten to it, so I don't know why it's not in the packet.
Well, it wasn't fully finished. We had a staffing problem.
Mm.
Didn't.
No, they're done.
Well, I
I've
asked for
I've
them.
corrected both of them.
Oh,
Yeah, so I don't know why they didn't make it in the packet. So it was just
Well, when I asked, they weren't done.
they were-
so can we approve October's and then add September's to the December meeting? Like we did for August, for October and September?
That's fine.
Move September
That's
to-
easy. I don't see anything that's going to be criterially, on a criteria.
Cause I have no problem with October, is it's just,
Has everybody read October's?
Yeah.
Minutes? Okay, that makes it simple. I'm pretty sure we can look at, an easy minutes for 12. It wasn't much anyway, but we need to look at that and put that on our general approval for, December,
So we're moving September minutes now to December.
September 5th.
we'll get to September eventually, David. Come on.
You don't need to move minutes. You don't need to move minutes.
We have to move the approval
Approval.
process to that.
Yeah,
If we don't have them here to approve them,
We'll just add them to the next agenda.
yeah, just add them to the December one and.
the motion is only to approve October's minutes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, exactly. Other than the minutes that are concerned, not the September, but the October, are there any additions that we need to do or? If there's none, We need to have a motion and a second to approve the minutes for October 3rd, 2024. Do we have a motion by?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of October 3rd, 2024.
And do we have, okay. And do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All opposed? Okay, minutes have been approved as presented.
Was there, I'm sorry,
For a minute.
Just
October,
October's.
October,
And there was no.
Clarify.
there was
It's
no,
October. That's why I was looking at you, waiting for you to say your usual.
You didn't ask for approval. You asked
Asked
for
for
the
nay.
motion and then you asked for the nays.
Oh. Okay. All
thank you.
opposed?
I was wondering what just happened.
We're getting
Okay.
a little excited.
Okay.
We're getting excited.
We're getting tired.
I think I was writing Sarah at the time.
Yeah, don't write for me.
So we have a motion, we had a motion by Carl, seconded by Sarah. All in favor? All opposed?
Aye.
So minutes have been approved as presented.
For October.
Only for October.
Okay, put that in, October.
That was the motion. October.
Yeah.
I just want to alliterate it.
Or, yeah, we were,
This one will say no to everything.
If it's not done
It's not
proper,
right.
if it's not done right, it will not.
okay, so this is gonna be an interesting one, and I hope that you will all understand this one, and not, we can leave it as a conversation. We're gonna move on to agenda number 7, and staff's gonna touch on FEMA's Pick'ems. That's the flood mitigation program. And it says that was previously approved by the commission at the August Planning Commission meeting. So I want to ask each commissioner individually if they have any questions concerning, before we go into the staff. And Carl,
I have well, how do I word this? We approved it with what we knew. And from what we are told now, that there's some additional information for it. So I don't know if that additional information would change our thoughts or not.
I'm hoping that the questions that we have after the presentation, and we are going to have a presentation.
No, Counselor Wood cannot be here tonight, so, and that was just known a couple of hours ago, so, I mean, I could pull up some, legal Oregon City's, slides if you wish, but I think that, Henry could just sum it up for you a lot.
Okay, so
Simpler.
that's whatever, however presentation we have, with the idea that, will there be future need of a clarification of this?
There's probably gonna be a lot more discussion because the League of Oregon Cities is going to introduce to legislators and to file a brief of some sort in the court system to go against this. So some cities are calling it unfunded mandates. Some cities are now doing moratoriums. Take you back to the camping homeless ordinance that we did, hurry up and adopt something and look at the changes that we had. And then we have the grants pass situation. So I feel like it's going to be very similar where it was a hurry up and do this thing and hopefully cities get on board with it and then pull it back after it's been adopted. So I just want to bring it back to you guys to have more conversation since we did go to the conference. I have printed off some training that's online that I think Commissioner Smith may have or passed around. There's also some emails that I have sent out. There's lots of trainings, and the handout that you have in front of you is the one that staff sent over earlier about, this one is the Bible for the option that you did choose, the permit by permit basis. So it was more information for you to look at after tonight. It's going to be continued conversations. In many areas, DLCD has a sort of hands-off approach. They're trying to answer questions the best they can, but they just tell us to get a hold of legal counsel. Legal counsel is working with other cities right now, as well as Henry, to have discussions in other cities, so he can give you what other cities are doing and, you know, what is maybe best for Lakeside. So with that,
Very nice, Krista. Yeah, you pretty much hit everything. So yeah, my notes tell me that the planning commission did choose a permit by permit option back in August. And yeah, Krista's right. League of Oregon Cities had a conference and they may be challenging it. And League of Oregon Cities is recommending maybe cities take no action. They just kind of let it play out. But I can tell you, some cities are going the model code route. Canyonville and Brookings have both chose that route. And we are updating their floodplain ordinance for them so they can be compliant. Cities have to make that decision or choose an option by December 1st, and then they have until July 1st, 2025 to implement that option.
I don't know why it's so low on the.
Carl's one community.
Did you hear me okay, Krista?
It's a little bit low, but I think that we can hear you. I don't know if it's, my computer is all the way up. Everything I have is all the way up. So I
Yeah,
don't,
same here. Well, Krista really hit everything on the head there when she spoke last about it. I mean, I'm here to answer any questions, but as of now, Lakeside has chosen the permit by permit, and we have not notified FEMA yet. So if you want to change that option, you're welcome to. Okay, I'm back. Can you hear me? We cannot hear city, planning commission. Those on Zoom.
About now.
Yes, better. I can hear you.
Okay.
Hi, Henry, this is Randy.
Hi, Randy.
We were talking about the ways of appeasing the FEMA people and finding out that we were told not to do anything that they would do basically the permit to permit. What is the financial impact for us as a city on that decision?
On the permit by permit decision?
Yes,
Well, I think it's probably just the time associated with reviewing and approving those permits as they come in. And that cost is usually passed on to the applicant.
that was my question too.
Yeah.
Okay. And then if I also was reading, I went to listen to a seminar talk on FEMA and the idea that several people were using the moratorium as an issue to stop and at least acknowledge to the FEMA people something that is, you're saying that is on a moratorium. And also kind of slow it down so we can get a bigger grip on what we want to do. Can we change once we get going from being a issue from permit to permit?
Yes, FEMA has said you can change your choice at any time. You just have to have it implemented. You have to have something.
And by December 1st, I understood.
December 1st, you have to make your selection known to FEMA.
And our selection is what? Just
According to my
basically-
notes, right, it's permit by permit, but I have not emailed FEMA yet to let them know that. So you can tell me right now if you want me to change it and I can email it FEMA.
Did you already say permit to permit?
I did not tell FEMA that yet.
Is that your suggestion?
I honestly, probably the model code is probably most straightforward. The permit by permit is a little more unclear at this point. As you saw, it is a big guidebook that kind of controls a permit by permit route. But the model code is probably more straightforward for any city to adopt because all you have to do is just kind of tuck it into your existing code.
Well, we as a commission like that idea. And I think the
And I guess-
model code,
Yeah, maybe the cost for the model code would just be staff time to taking that through the process to rewrite the code and bring it to the planning commission and city council.
Henry, has the city of Lakeside already prepared or worked on the model code? And is it, or do we need to start, if we were doing that, would we need, I just had the model code sent to me today.
Okay.
So do we start working on it, or has it already been done, or is that something that you're doing?
I am not doing it. I certainly can. However, if you want to take that on, you're welcome to. So what Krista received via email that says are circulating is a temporary moratorium on floodplain development until such time cities can adopt the model code. So there'll be a little lag time from December 1st until you have your code adopted. And during that period, you wouldn't approve floodplain development permits. And the template, Krista has a template that was being circulated amongst cities for that option.
Oh, I sent that to
You sent
Henry,
it?
yeah.
Okay.
was that the model code or the?
What I sent to him was the moratorium.
Oh, is that pretty bad as much?
Yeah, that's what what's going around in the managers association is
Okay.
the moratorium.
That's your suggestion.
Yeah,
But that's
Okay.
temporary, right, Krista?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure we'll be more involved in it as I was told. And Chris seems to have gotten it to a point where at least appease FEMA at this time. Thank you, Henry.
Yeah, you're welcome. Did you want
Thanks,
me
Henry.
to, well, do you want me to update your decision, your choice, or not yet?
You have to make a motion to revoke the old one
Yep.
or rescind it.
Go from rescinding the old to the,
If you would like to go forward, I would move to rescind your option 2 and adopt a moratorium for a recommendation to go to the council.
And with that, they would pursue the model code, right?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Well, I think you would, because you have to have something in place. So if you have a moratorium, that is one option, but that's a complete moratorium on development in the floodplain. What I was describing is a temporary moratorium until such time you have your code in place.
A temporary, yes.
Yeah. And honestly, the model code is pretty easy to insert into your existing code. I've been doing it for several cities already, and it's pretty straightforward.
He sent me over what he was doing like for the other cities, and it is pretty easy. It's a couple of paragraphs to change, so.
okay.
Less time consuming, cheaper,
Sounds what?
cheaper, and less time consuming than having to go through all the making sure we have people on board to check out our squirrels and snails and.
But that's what adopting the model code would do.
So,
Right now, your current vote is that
so we need to revote.
you need to rescind and revote if you are looking to
Good.
do a temporary moratorium.
That would be better enough. Yeah, anything that's from our, recommendations. Floodplain.
Oh, people on Zoom said they can't hear Henry either, so. I just got a message. So I don't know what's up with that, but yeah, evidently they can't hear me.
Yeah, yes, yeah, he can hear us.
Okay. Then if we are going to decide for recommendation, we're gonna wait for David.
We will pause.
Send that title.
Okay. Like, wait, back on again?
You're back on.
Okay, I'd like to make a recommendation that we rescind the floodplain habitat assessment and mitigation prior and make a revote to change it to a temporary moratorium. Is a motion to accept that? Yes.
Is what we have previously is that we selected, permit by permit,
You did.
and that's what, Henry's got. So don't we have to make a motion to rescind that?
That's what he did.
But he's.
That-
You rescinded it and made a moratorium at the same time.
That's the permit by permit.
That's that is the permit by permit.
That's a permit by permit?
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay.
go ahead. Good.
All right, now do we have a motion to,
You have a motion on the table. You need a second.
I need a second.
We'll make a motion.
Yes.
Randy?
Okay, second?
Yeah. Second.
Sarah?
I got confused for a
Oh,
second.
we will, there's just a lot of things as we have going on that. Okay. All in favor?
Do you want discussion?
Is there discussion concern? David?
No,
Sure. And hold back, young man. No.
I'm not saying nothing.
Okay. Didn't ask for a vote, did you?
Not yet, then.
No, I was in the middle, that's when someone stopped me and said,
Okay.
discussion.
And we're sure that this is the one that Henry thinks would be best suited for Lakeside,
Temporary moratorium.
a temporary moratorium.
Yes, but just remember, with the caveat that we're pursuing the model code, which
Right,
will probably take a few months to adopt. So yeah,
but that's still going to be ultimately the easiest option at
think
this time.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, I really do. The permit by permit, there's not a lot of information about how that actually works. I don't know if you actually have to amend your code if you choose that route. And it looks like it puts a lot of burden on the property owners to kind of be citizen scientists to fill out that permit and what they're asking for.
So I've worked with you, Henry, on a FEMA project just recently, and my understanding was this FEMA stuff falls on the property owners regardless. Would this change anything, making the city responsible for any of that?
No,
Other than
well, the
just
city,
research,
the city would be responsible for reviewing and approving.
but not for purchasing, applying for, calling inspections of?
All the work would be done by the applicant, and then the city is responsible for review and approval.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Cause I mean, we're very tiny. We don't have a lot of people to sit there and fiddle around with this stuff. So that's what I was just wondering if it would change the way we do it any differently than we do now with the FEMA stuff.
Well, I mean, it's going to change because there's new standards.
Right,
But yeah, okay.
it makes sense.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, that was my question. I'm done.
Okay. All right, well, let's have a vote. All in favor?
I,
Okay, opposed? Okay, it's passed. Thank you, Henry.
Thank you.
Of course.
Have a good night.
And
Bye.
Yeah. No. That's okay.
Agenda 8, that was the staff report by Henry, city planner. Was that not?
no, the staff report is the, this page.
and Henry was kind of coming in for making it, I think.
I think so.
Mhm.
I'm completely confused, but we're doing.
So, yes, that's what happened.
Okay.
And then, so the staff report was that, Henry did prepare it, but then, so,
You left before you read it, right?
right.
Okay.
So he had planning inquiries. He summarized below are the planning inquiries received by City Hall in the past month or so. On October 2nd, 2024, Ziply Fiber asking about permit process for upcoming projects in Lakeside referred to city administrator. Follow up on status of franchise agreement between Lakeside and Ziply Fiber. A signed franchise agreement may or may not be already in place. City attorney had the draft agreement ready if needed. On October 2nd, email transient tax form to property owner. On October 2nd, inquiry from AT&T Communications about updating telecommunication tower at 740 Kings Avenue. The property is zoned for this use, so AT&T is free to update telecommunication towers as they please. All agency approval, including FAA, were obtained for the original installation on the 25-foot water tank, no height increase. October 9th, building permit for pole barn on Tierra Street is still under review. October 11th, building permit for new home near Council Hill revised to include a deck and carport. Property owner is obtaining necessary approval from building official. City had no issues with revision. On October 14th, inquiry in if a short-term rental is allowed in general commercial zone. Yes, a short-term rental is allowed in the general commercial zone because it is considered lodging.
Did you restart the recording?
Yeah.
I just didn't, I just was wondering if you did that when he came back in.
Oh, yeah.
And on October 14th, inquiry if a shipping container is a permitted accessory structure. Yes, it is. Inquiry advised that there are limitations on storage in general commercial zone, referred to section 155.112, limitations on use. October 16th, 2024, inquiry into certificates of occupancy for new home on 15th Street, referred to the city and building officials for a final signature of certificates of occupancy. October 21st, inquiry if a mobile home residence is a non-conformity in the general commercial zone, referred to section 155.320, non-conforming use. October 22nd, inquiry into new property line adjustment application. Application was submitted and will be reviewed for completeness. On October 23rd, inquiry from a realtor about property on Hilltop Drive and uses permitted. October 31st, building permit 24C29 for new city hall ramp and deck reviewed and forwarded to building official for review of building plans. Respectfully, Henry Hurley.
Well, I have a question. On the permit that was there on the city hall ramp and deck, is that from the senior,
Yeah.
Yes,
and is that going forward?
yes. It's been submitted. They're letting it's going. It's in review at the Northwest Code Trust.
Krista just told me it's already been awarded to the contract.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Um,
That's why the permit was allowed to get pulled.
Oh.
Can't pull a permit for a job that isn't approved.
Oh, okay.
All right,
Good job.
good job. Thank
That was a
you, thank
mouthful.
you. I want to thank staff and for doing this. And we can move on to the next item on the agenda. And we're going to think about agenda number 9, and it's the planning commission discussion items. So I'm going to ask, are there any items on the commissioner's mind that would like to discuss? Or do they have any idea what they'd like to see on the agenda for the next meeting? Let's limit these to specifics and something that can be constructive for us all.
Mine's not really like an agenda item. It's more or less a,
Stimulation of mind.
no, more like a question for an option. How about that?
But see, that's discussion.
So, my understanding is we've been told our printer is sad and angry most of the time, and the paper to run the copies is really, really expensive. So I would like to know if Krista would be okay with agreeing to give us a digital option. So I can bring in like my laptop, which is dedicated from when I was on city council. It doesn't have my personal stuff on it, it's just city business. And then I can have my digital thing and I wouldn't have paperwork.
I love that you said that because I am not a big paper fan. Excuse me.
Can we like save some trees at City Hall?
But here's the thing, in some of this ARPA funding that we're identifying, that's one of them, is that everybody has laptops or an iPad or something. We should not be asking you to use your personal devices.
I bought one when I was on city council that I
Nope.
use strictly for
No,
city business.
no, we should not be asking you to use your own emails, your own devices. I mean, phones we can't really get around, but you should have city issued laptops, because unless you're gonna donate that laptop, then it's completely ours.
It stays with planning, it goes with planning, right?
Well, I mean, your laptop, I mean, are you going to give it to the city?
Well, but my-
Exactly.
When I went to the League of Oregon City thing, I was aware that at any point in time I could be audited and that they would need the information and notes and that they could come and take that laptop I purchased and I would never see it again. And I was okay with it because I'm a lot more organized doing this than.
No, right, and that's fine. And so that is my request to the council is that come new season, that we give people the tools. Not everybody likes paper, not everybody, you know, and so we should give you equipment to do your job. You're one volunteering.
We want it, I
No.
think David, I think would prefer to have.
Oh, if it's a city thing,
Okay.
I would want it. So I'm not gonna use my personal
Discussing this a
device.
little bit. He doesn't want to use his personal device, and I have one I haven't used since I left council, and it was just for council.
But I want all of the stuff on my
I have
computer.
a personal one in all last year, or even before, ever since I've been on the council. We got our packets by email. I have it in that computer, and I brought it in every meeting, and that's what I used instead of paper.
Because, I mean, running my
I know, but
business.
it's my personal one.
Yeah,
See, when I'm running my business, I keep a folder for every client, and in those folders is a monthly folder for each everything, and it helps my brain with my ADHD stay really well organized. And this to me is chaos.
So are you saying that the city may be able to requisition or
I mean, they're super cheap anymore. You can get a laptop for like $200, $300, $400. I mean, if you want even, you know, touch screens and things. I mean, they're super, not Acers. We're not doing Acers, but that's my request to them is that we give you the tools to do your job. We give you the training to do your job. We give you the pads, and we are supposed to be taking copies of your notes. We're supposed to be, as you leave and things like that. Those things we can't really get around for paper, but we can save it in other ways by giving you those tools. And so that helps me go to council next week and say, we have had a request also from the commission. And it's not that we're going to be spending a whole bunch of money to do these things. So I'm getting all of your supplies together, all of your training together, all of your, so that come next year that, you're coming in ready to do the things with the tools that you need to do the job.
ours until, and then we just pass it on. to the next person.
Yeah.
And they get,
Yep.
I believe they wipe them or some kind of.
Yeah, you
security
can,
thing,
yeah,
as
yeah.
The League of Oregon City says, and
Yep.
they get it ready for the new
Yep.
person. And then
Yep.
my understanding was if you need to see notes, we could save them on thumb drive, hand you the thumb drive, you could review it, give it back and forth. We wouldn't even have to email things because that's considered less secure is what League of Oregon City.
Well, just for example, in my last council, as people left the house for the night, they would just copy theirs off and leave it in a folder. It's however you guys want to come up with, however we are supposed to be able to save those records. That's it. We can talk about that, again, but yes, I would like to give you the tools. And also part of that is, the request is a copy machine. I think it's very high up on the council's agenda to make sure that we have a good copy machine. So, both of those I feel like are doable.
Thank you. Okay, that was all I wanted to talk about.
Okay, and mine was, my comment was the same thing as hers.
Good, you can start with it.
Would our laptop, whatever computer have all of our stuff? Ordinances, FEMA, commissioner,
And that'd be really easy to download from the city website. And
so
save on
would
the
it be ready for us to go? I got I don't know how many binders you
I got
got.
about 3 in
The
my
thing is,
head.
if you got a laptop, you got Wi-Fi, and you got access to
Yeah.
the city's website. And all that information is on the website, and it's current,
Which is
and
what I,
it should be current.
and that's what I did with my last one for the city council. I just went on the city website, downloaded all the documents I would need right on the desktop. And if I needed to in the middle of the meeting, I could open one up with bookmarks and I wouldn't have to go over here and dig in my giant bag of folders and it might not even be everybody's cup of tea, but
Well,
that's how I feel.
Well, and to take it a step further for me, having a functional website where you can search the thing, because I have searched and I spent a lot of time searching and it really is not efficient. So,
One, if you type up a grading permit application, it pops up to a complaint form for the city. It doesn't even bring
right.
up the grading.
So
application.
in part of my request is also additional, making the website functional. But again, you guys have to remember that like, these are not additional funds that we've gotten. They're already existing in the budget. So we're pulling them out of, the budget that was already created. We're just identifying particular things that COVID money can be particularly spent on.
So in the meantime, till you get that approved, would it be okay, you email me all this stuff, and I could use the other laptop that already has city
Yeah.
stuff on it until a decision is made.
And you should,
I did email the
Cause,
Packet.
well, the only thing I got in the email was the October minutes and the agenda that I lost. And then you had to resend me the agenda. I never got the full packet.
and again, like with our emails too, it's not an address book across.
Right.
It is so problematic that I have changed, the city clerk's name and it keeps reverting back. She changes it. We don't have like regular email addresses that work. And so our emails are a really big problem right now. So if you just give us a little bit of time to get the IT on board, because I just sent them over the agreement and we'll start, I think in a couple of months, you'll start seeing a much better digital accessibility and communication.
It wasn't that bad. Randy told me I had a packet here. I picked it up and I reviewed it today while I was in a ditch. So I still got it reviewed, but it would just be nice if I could
Yeah.
somehow.
Yeah, I agree.
I can't get a digital copy. I'd be like, hey.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And, you know, in the meantime, let us know, you know, like if you don't get something, if, you know, we're still sorting out new staffing again. And I know we've been saying that for the last 5 months, but I'm new, you know, she was new and now she's new.
Well,
So
I'm also just thinking the amount of money we could be saving.
yes,
on
absolutely.
paper.
Absolutely, because my council packet, I think is like a good 70 or 80, 100 pages, you know, and
We've had some pretty big fat ones in here too. so.
Yeah.
I just wanted to double check.
Yeah.
If that was something I
Yep.
could do, and if,
Already-
if council says, yeah, you can buy them, then I'll just quit using mine, and, but in the meantime, I kind of want to be able to use. But like I said, was only used for city council, so there's not like YouTube and TikTok or whatever. else.
yep, but it also, I mean, you should have your own email addresses.
Uh-oh.
Hey, Carl's got something else.
I wanna know what are we going to do about what we were talking about in the workshop?
Nothing.
I mean, as far as the workshop on which one?
What,
Oh, yeah.
Workshop
we are
at the beginning of this
Airbnb.
thing.
Yeah, well, that Airbnb is another thing that just be,
We're never going to agree on it, I don't think. I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't want to start the conversation again.
no.
You're at comments, and so, if you maybe keep it to comments, but, if somebody has a solution, you know, of a different conversation, that we can keep continuing the conversation.
Well, I mean, is it going to be on another agenda? Are we going to just forget about it and let it disappear or?
Well, it's up to you. It's up to the council or the commission to decide if they want to
Revisit it,
revisit it, and we'll add it to the next agenda. You let us know.
put that on there
Well,
and give it a 30-minute discussion.
I just think that we need to do something to this couple that is over here.
I think we can't do that without doing it for everybody. We can't just cherry pick.
No, but you can grandfather all the ones that are in general
That's
thinking.
that's why I said nobody here is gonna agree. I think that we need to put this on its own separate thing, I think.
I have comments. I'd like to know where our rewrite of our shipping container is and our MFU rewrite. Mobile food unit.
Oh, you wrote that.
Those were back in September and we're now in
Did
going
we
to be in
not have that
December.
already done through,
I thought the mobile food unit thing was.
into,
Do you have a question for me? Is that?
Page 6. No, I was just making my public comment. I'm asking, it's a comment for the shipping container rewrite back in September. And in September, the rewrite was under device of mobile food unit is under device. Everyone says, again, Department of Vehicle, Coos County Health
Are
Authority.
you talking about an ordinance?
Yeah,
Rewriting of an
the
24,
one.
2404?
The mobile food unit, for September.
In June?
It was what, so-
Mobile food unit in September. We went back to rewrite it because it says for the description, definition, mobile food unit, any device. It's not a device, it's a vehicle.
No, we did not do a rewrite. You made a point and it came back to you for notice. We did not change anything in the ordinance.
We didn't get to vote on it in September. We didn't because it was a rewrite.
I thought we were talking about Sarah, we were talking about either or, we put it as an or.
Yeah, I think if I remember, it, we put it-
Device or vehicle.
because not everything that's a food truck is a vehicle, is, I think, what the original conversation was a.
Well, I was just going off the health authority and
I
the
think it
Department
was
of
just-
Motor
I think
Vehicle,
it
what
was
they
just a
said.
matter of a language change or definition change, wasn't it?
It was.
But I don't think it needs to be completely.
No, it was that, just that part.
Just a language change.
It was the language change for
It was-
definition.
We decided that it was gonna be either or.
Either or.
And that was just, and we all agreed.
Is that something we have to take to a meeting or?
Yes.
is that-
Wait a minute. This is going on the agenda next week.
Oh, it is?
Yeah,
So I mean, we've already presented this.
it's come to you twice
So,
now.
okay,
And
does the city council do they have the same issue that Mr. Smith has? with
No,
it?
the only issue they had was that it was not posted at enough time.
But it was though, it was even that, Rick had sent it to DLCD even
yes.
way back when, and so in the
Yeah, well, wait,
the transition between him and I created the illusion that there wasn't notice. I had no way to know at that time that it had been sent to DLCD.
Okay.
And I could not find a verification that it went in the paper. So it got, all of them were sent back for a notice. However, all of them were signed already.
So the food truck thing's not even an issue anymore.
It is going to council next week.
So then,
My understanding was that he made a point. I don't,
and I just remember like once he said it is, I think it was just a language
It was just
thing.
the language thing.
But is
for
that
the-
something that,
but
David, you could go to council and be like, could you change this one word before saying yes and? see what-
No.
The definition.
I mean, it's been noticed in the paper now twice.
Okay,
It's been put back and put back and put back so many times that's why it's taking so long. If I would have known, we could have changed it before it was.
no, it was exactly how we sent it. And we have Mark, when I was there at that meeting, I was told personally that it did not go in at the right time and that way, and then I said that and it took it. That we went through the whole process over the process. So all they have to do is just approve it.
Thank you.
That's all they have to do. It's all done.
so yeah, it's a dead.
It's a dead horse. It's just a waste of time, energy. We could be talking about devices.
Now, what was your other comment / not a question?
Shipping containers, we had that back, we were gonna do something about shipping containers for like Leo, you can put them, we were gonna have a
Yeah,
definition.
we talked about that in September too, but I thought we decided,
I thought that we decided that that was okay. If it was under.
Up to 200, up to
That's right.
200 square feet, and I thought we were thinking that it could follow the same building codes as any other,
Yes,
I thought we both, I have it right.
that's why he's
here.
able to do that. So we discussed that, did that. In fact, that was when Henry and our lawyer were there.
Yeah,
Yes,
And they,
It was in October,
yeah,
not September. September is when you allowed him to do it during public
And then
comment.
October was
And then you
when
had
we
to
did it.
send,
October the 3rd was when we were, yeah.
at the beginning of the month, we sent him a letter.
We were discussing between container and storage.
So is there something that needs to be rewritten? I thought that the way that you interpret it was different, you wanted to leave it the way that it was, and the attorney said something different, but you decided to keep it how it is.
That's what I have written down.
It says there in our minutes. Then we did talk about that, so we did
I didn't think that was a.
in October minutes.
Are we all up to date on business then?
Yep.
Yeah, I have it here that we decided the 200 square foot building code and all that stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah, I have
Yep.
that. So I don't think that needs anything written because
No,
we're just
we
following
did.
our
That's
current
what it
building
is.
code.
Don't have a definition for,
But we had a definition.
for storage container.
I think there was some miscommunication too about like what he was saying storage container and it, then there was a picture of a barn house or a shed or something
Yeah,
that was different than a storage container. So then it diverted to storage or shed. And then there was a lot of there was not a lot of clarity in what he
Right,
was
and I think
requesting.
Randy kept calling it what was it?
Shipping.
A shipping container, and like me and Carl were calling it a storage container, and I think
Yes.
that's where the definition came. But I think we all decided it was the same thing.
Yes, Coates asked if the resident can put his car in a shipping container, not have to attain the building permit if the container is under 200 square feet. Thomas makes the motion to let residents have shipping container for storage. Motion carries all ayes. 4 from Coates, Brasnoff, Thomas, and Smith.
I was just wondering if we had to have a definition for that, because we said something back in.
I think the
September on
definition
that.
was the amount.
Well, the interpretation would have been something you added to your code, correct? Had you accepted his interpretation?
Yeah. And I thought we talked about because it qualified normal use. And we weren't putting it on boats anymore, the shipping container is
The
the same
storage,
thing
yeah.
as the
So
storage
we call it a
container.
storage unit, 1 per lot, and
Yeah.
100
Can't
feet,
take over 90%.
more than 90% of the lot.
Yeah, so I think we figured that one out.
Did you say where it could be placed?
So if
Correct.
someone
I think we
Front yard.
decided to follow regular building
Front yard.
codes, which is, I think, what,
Oh.
backyard.
backyard.
Like,
Front yard.
the
10
same
feet, 20
easements.
feet.
And that's what I said, it cannot occupy more than
Want to
90%
put one
of
in
the lot.
front of City Hall, right here. And we want to paint it purple polka dot,
Well,
I think.
accessory buildings cannot be.
No.
It's like it's an accessory building, it's.
But we also voted agreed because of the existing one.
Oh,
Right, which means you can't like turn it into a house, but if you want to use it to store things in, it had to follow the same requirements as like a shed. But you can't put it like in your driveway or in the front yard, it has to be like behind the dwelling and I think that's what we.
Right, exactly, and also meet the
Kind of like mine, but
neighbor.
you were around on mine, you told me as long as it was behind and it wasn't visible and all that stuff, I think is what we
Yep.
decided. I don't know, I don't remember much, I don't care, I remember 2 days ago.
Tell you, I love this business. I love this idea, and I know it's a lot of work. I know there's things we have our brothers for. I'm glad that we have an idea that we can come together and then leave as friends. But that's what we're here for, to go and pursue what's needed in our being a commissioner. If there's nothing else to discuss, I would like to adjourn the meeting.
Did you have a comment?
Carl,
No, I just where I was asking about,
the guy.
What about
About our,
Krista, can Krista make comments?
a guy with the short-term rental.
I think you're going to, I think you're gonna find that they were never allowed in, even in the, light industrial.
Yes, it's in the code that, light industrial is approved. If you, anything that is not approved is in residential.
Yeah, our code says. light
Your new
industrial-
code, your new code
Yeah,
says that they're allowed in light industrial.
Uh-huh.
light industrial, commercial, recreational, residential combined.
light industrial.
Didn't see the light industrial.
Well, that's what happened, is it was kind of written while you guys were doing things, you got rid of light industrial.
Okay, I'd like to discuss that a little bit more.
It's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Okay, well then, what time is it?
8:03.
If there is nothing else to do and nothing else to see, I gotta go chase a bear out of my house.
Mhm.
At 7:58.
No, 8:03.
It's
8:03, I just looked at that.
That's behind.
5 minutes off.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
okay, 8:03, next meeting will be held on December 5th, 2024.